Julie, thanks so much for joining this conversation for another episode of Wild Truths. We're sharing information just to get the facts out to members about the upcoming votes for the SGM and what's been happening in wildlife rescue in New South Wales and with wires. And I know that you've got some really important issues to raise. So excuse my dog in the background. He's tapping on the door. Maybe just start with a brief intro of you, how you got into this, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so I joined Wires 5 years ago and semi-retirement, bought a property that would suit to be a release site and really love my wildlife. So, my working life, I've run a business for 29 years and we do a lot of outback travel and training. So I encounter a lot of wildlife and I've always wanted to help. Yeah, so I got into it pretty full throttle, became the chairperson, became the macropod coordinator, and I'm also a Wires endorsed shooter, and so is my husband, John. So that's become pretty much full-time for us. Every day there's call-outs or phone calls. So there's a lot of pressure to be present, to be available. And that's what I'm finding with us. We're semi-retired. We've got a caravan. We'd like to travel. But if we want to go away, I feel as though I'm letting the rest of the branch down because there's two shooters missing. And because we are so busy, it does put a lot of pressure on the others. So that's one of my big gripes, is that we are a big branch from north of Mudgee down past Abercrombie out to Molong and Mount Victoria. And it's a huge area that unfortunately has a lot of road strikes. So, we could have 20 or so call-outs a day for kangaroos or wombats hit on the road.
Wow.
So that's a lot of pressure we've got 6 shooters, and according to Wires, their procedures, they only have 5 shooters per branch. We put in a special request and we've had 6 approved, but 4 of them work full time. So you're trying to fit in between going to work or jumping out of meetings and not seeing family and that type of thing to be available. Because we're such a big branch, I would like to see 5 shooters in the Lithgow area, 5 in Mudgee, 5 in Orange, 5 in Bathurst, just to spread the load, because it is very, very taxing.
That's a huge responsibility just on you and your husband.
Yeah, look, it's not a nice thing to do. And if the call out comes on X Matters and it keeps coming out, because I'm the macropod coordinator, I see one at Mudgee or Orange and I just stress out all day. I can't get there and there's no police support. There's no shooters in that area. So this is where I want to change some of the rules. So at the moment, to become an endorsed shooter with Wires, you have to have 12 months macropod hair and experience. You have to go through the course, which is a pretty horrible course, Destroy Animal Humanely. You're sitting in a classroom with 20 other blokes, usually blokes, that are out there culling kangaroos, and they're talking about bashing the heads of joeys on the bull bar, and that's the course you have to sit through. I'd like to see an option where we can do the online theory rather than sit in that course, and then just attend the practical and you shoot the target. And the target is, what you're shooting is a kangaroo head that's 70 metres away. So yes, we have to go through that, but I would like to, during COVID, it was an online course. And I think for Wires shooters, that should be an option still, to do the theory online so you don't have to sit there, because that was a really traumatic day. It's not pleasant sitting in a classroom where that's what they're talking about, culling kangaroos.
Oh, I can only imagine. That's so distressing.
That's one of the things I'd like changed. I'd like to see the approval of Wires shooters that aren't macropod carers. I don't think you need to be a carer to assess an animal with a leg hanging off to put it out of its misery. Now, police aren't carers. Police don't have the appropriate weapon. So that's a big issue, that police have to put multiple shots. They can't do a kangaroo if it's mobile. They just can't get close enough. So there is options of having shooters that are just endorsed shooters who get the animal welfare. They have to have animal welfare and their license. And I know there's licensing rules, so you can't just go out and shoot a kangaroo on the footpath. There's a lot of, and it's not Wire's rules, it's the firearms and the police rules. So where we would like is Wire's support to just adjust those rules. A lot of the contract shooters have animal welfare and they work for councils. They might have to shoot a dog that's been hit by a car or a cow that's on the road. They've got that authority and the insurance to shoot in a public place. They've done the course Destroy Animal Humanely, and they've also got the appropriate weapon. So I think that's a better option than trying to get our police. I mean, we had one last night. I don't want to say anything bad about police because they're flat out. They've got other jobs to do. But they say they attend, they just drive past the animals laying in the grass and they just say they couldn't find it. Or sometimes we get them and they say, oh, yes, we've attended and we've euthanized. And then the next morning we get another call for the exact same kangaroo that's still laying there alive. So it's not the police's job. They don't have the appropriate weapon. Sometimes the directions we're given by the members of public are way out. So if police go to where, someone's in shock, they've hit a kangaroo, it's bounced off into the grass, they give very vague directions. So we've got a thermal scope, so we can walk along the side of the road looking for any warmth or glow in that thermal scope. And that's the only way we can find them. So those sorts of things are more practical than just leaving it on X Matters. So we all stress out seeing it come up time and time again and not being able to do anything about it. Now, our branch, we got some grants. We got a grant from our local member put towards a thermal scope. And we had a lot of hassle with Wire's, the welfare office, saying we don't need more than one in our branch. We can all share it. And even when we were told we don't need any more than 6 shooters because we can all coordinate and share it. There's 100 kilometres between us and we get called out in the middle of the night. We're not going to drive 100 kilometres to another member's place to borrow the thermal scope to then drive back.
Yeah, it's completely impractical.
It's just impractical. So I think one of the issues is this total disjoint between the management and the people on the ground. We're the first responders. We're on the ground. We're out early mornings, late nights in the fog. When we have a snow weekend in Central West, it just goes ballistic because we get everyone driving out to go and see snow. The kangaroos are around and the wombats are around, and we have a lot of carnage on the side of the roads. So it's totally impractical to share a thermal scope. It's totally impractical to say that the police will attend because they don't do a good job. So we need to change how we manage our shooters.
Well, it shouldn't be the police's responsibility anyway when the resources are available for people to train and become shooters.
Yeah, and I mean, in Wire's own code, it says a minimum of a .22 caliber rifle. Doesn't mention a pistol. So a pistol is not even to code. So when police attend, they don't have the appropriate weapon or the training, and often they just swing past, tick a box, report they couldn't see it or it's not there. So it doesn't solve the solution of having kangaroos at the side of the road. Now, currently we've got one that's been there for 5 days. It's got a broken arm and a broken tail, but it's still mobile. So it's in orange. Police won't attend anything mobile. We don't have a shooter. We need to get a contract shooter to shoot it from a distance and put it out of its misery. So that would be a solution. And I just think that in the management of Wires, they don't see the reality of this. They don't see that animal suffering at the side of the road or in a paddock or caught in a fence. I don't know, what they think we do every day, but it's not nice.
Not to mention the impact that it has on you and other shooters, because I have utmost respect for what you do, but I just wish, from what I'm hearing, there's little to no support from the welfare team for members who are out there every day doing all of these things.
And that's what I'd like to see change. Now, John and I have been Wires endorsed shooters for the last 5 years. we've done hundreds, like we've lost count. Not
Yeah.
once has the volunteer support services given us a call and said, "Are you okay?"
Wow.
That sort of thing, I think, should be part of it. Now, I've run a business for 29 years. I've got a lot of staff. We work right around Australia. I don't have to take care of my customers, the people on the ground. I have to take care of my staff. And I think that's where Wise is a big organisation now. I think when it first started, it was all about the volunteers. And I think with any organisation, when they get large, you've got boards, you've got staff, you've got a lot of people out there. I think they really need to take care of their volunteers because they're their first responders.
Mm.
Anyone who rings Wise, they don't see anyone in the management, they see the volunteer turn up. So the volunteers are the people that really need to be taken care of. So if they're struggling with an animal in care, then that should be the support there. We've got a great system. I'm a macropod coordinator and I should know how everyone who's got a macropod in care or rescues a macropod is going. So I'm constantly in contact with those people because that's my job. I put my hand up to be macropod coordinator. So that's the one thing that I have to do. I have to ring around and make sure everyone's okay. And sometimes people need respite, so we find a babysitter, or we organise those sorts of things, or we organise because we are such a big branch. And one of the things that we struggle with is we don't have vet support. The vets are overwhelmed. The vets are closing down because they can't get vets in the Central West. So it's not as if we can turn up at a vet with an injured wildlife. So we're going to Dubbo Zoo, which is a 3-hour drive for a lot of people in my area, or Camden University Hospital, which is another 2.5, 3-hour drive for most people. So we can't just turn up at vets. So that's a big issue. I really love the fact that Tanya Bishop put out courses, so online courses for vets and vet nurses about wildlife. But then Tanya left. So that was another support thing that we had. We had that vet in Wise, but Tanya's left, and I don't know whether that's going to be replaced or what's happening. Communication is a thing, so we'd love to have more communication. Is there another vet available, or what's going to happen?
Well, the fact is that Wise has the resources to be able to employ vets or set up a service where members can call, have a team of on-call vets so that members can call with questions or to get support with the care of an animal.
Yeah, look, Wise have been great support for our branch. I mean, we get all our milk paid for and those sorts of things. People build their own enclosures and pouches and things, a lot of that at cost. But there's resources there that, we don't have a vet available. So an online vet to show what, the symptoms or to get that support would be great. I mean, that's
even if it's like via a telehealth type of situation.
Telehealth's available for, humans.
Yes.
And because of our distance, I mean, we've got a lot of members who don't drive anymore. They're pensioners. They don't have a lot of money. They live on rural properties because they love wildlife. And so they would only be able to get to telehealth. They're not going to be able to drive. And the distances are a big issue in our branch.
And being that it's in the code of conduct that an experienced wildlife carer can assess an animal, and work out the best course of action for care, or vet review, like having access to that telehealth system, or hypothetically, would just mean that, it's affirming what you already know.
When we do get into our vets, quite often they will consult with Camden or Dubbo, and that's really good. They've they admit that they don't do much training in wildlife, and this one's not sure what to do, or they take blood tests and they've only got the ranges for a dog or a cat. They're not sure what the ranges of the blood results will be, so they'll fax them off or send them off to Dubbo Wildlife Zoo, which is great that they're seeking that support. So from us, I think we just need more clarification. We need more contact with the management of Wise. I think they really seriously need to do something about the shooting, the euthanizing. We've had members who have bundled up an adult kangaroo and put them in the back of their car just so they could drive it to a vet to get euthanized. And we've had other members who there's no shooter available and had to get their iron bar out and bash the kangaroo across the head to kill
God,
it.
that's such a traumatic experience
And
for
it's in the
anyone.
code. It's in the code, and that's what we can do. But it's just horrible.
Mm.
And it's not very successful the first couple of blows. It's not as if you do one blow. So that sort of thing is traumatic too. So I just think that if we can engage wires, authorised shooters that just turn up and shoot, they don't have to be a carer for a kangaroo. They've got the appropriate weapon, they've got the appropriate training. Then we will have more people we can call on. Now, some of these people are contract shooters. They go out culling, they shoot pigs, they shoot goats. They've got the skills. They're not people that want to be wise carers, but they can do that job, And I'm a realist. There's people out there shooting kangaroos, and if they can help us out and euthanize a kangaroo quickly and efficiently, then I'm happy to call on them to do that. But at the moment, we're not allowed to. So RSPCA, they won't shoot. Like we've just had a case where they said they might get there in 2 or 3 days, which is not suitable. Council rangers, a lot of them don't shoot anymore, so they use contract shooters. So a lot of our councils out here used to have a council ranger that would have a gun, but now they call in a contract shooter. So that's lost to us as well. So it's just that network. We need to have this network of people in all different locations. We've got someone in another wildlife group, so it's not wise, but we call on him quite often. He's over 80 and he's driving in the middle of the night to go and euthanize a kangaroo. And there's a lot of pressure put on him because we don't have a shooter in his area. So I don't think that's fair either. So yeah,
and his costs wouldn't be covered then either, would they?
No, there's no cost covered. I mean, with our shooting costs, bullets and the courses and those sorts of things aren't covered. We can put a claim in for our kilometres. So that's one thing, Wise will let us put a claim in for that. We've got.
But the cost of ammunition must mount up too when you're doing this so frequently.
A few dollars every bullet, and your guns aren't cheap. So, but I mean, as a shooter, I'm happy to pay. I'm happy to cover all that. But I just.
But the fact is, Julie, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, but
really,
volunteers if they do need to put their hand up for covering the cost, then it should be available.
Yes,
we've got members who said, "Look, I would buy a gun and be a shooter, but I can't afford it." So that's a stumbling block. And then because we're limited to our 5, or in our case 6, we can't put in applications for extra shooters. But I've been emailing. I've been that squeaky wheel, and I have had an email back saying that they would look at more shooters if we can, but they still have to follow the rules. So they've still got to be a carer. They've still got to have 12 months experience. So there's still those rules. But they are considering letting us have more because, I forget the statistics now, but we've had like hundreds in a couple of months. It's not just 1 or 2 here, there, or everywhere. I know John and I did 6 on one day. And that's your whole day. That's your whole day gone. And you're not dealing with cute and cuddly and fluffy. You're dealing with death. And you're dealing quite often with members of public that are traumatised, that have got their car broken at the side of the road. They've got a kangaroo in their backyard. It's trauma for them too, and they want something to happen straight away. Like they don't want to sit there for an hour, 2 hours, 2 days waiting for someone to come and help. So there is an expectation. I mean, Wire's got a great system. They've got phone number plastered all over the roads. They've got a call centre. The call centre are lovely people that are trying to solve all these rescues. There is a system there. And I think with all the turmoil in Wires, they've lost a lot of very, very good, experienced carers and rescuers because they're just not sure what's going on. They don't know where they stand. I think if we can just get this whole constitution and a whole lot of issues sorted, the members will feel a lot more confident and comfortable.
I
And I
think
think,
also that there needs to be a shift away from the direction that Wise seems to have moved in with prosecution and punitive measures, which are creating a real feeling of fear and vulnerability throughout the
we shouldn't
members'
feel
community.
fearful. We're amateurs. We're good Samaritans. We're first
We,
responders. And I don't think
yes.
we should feel fear from the organisation we're supporting.
Mm.
And that has crept in because of these prosecutions, and you sort of think, oh, I did the wrong thing. What if someone finds out? We're not experts. We've all made mistakes. um you're doing the best you can at the side of the road, or in the middle of the night you've got a joey or something that's compromised. You're doing it without vet support. You're doing it without volunteer services from Wise, their support.
Which
So I
is
think,
why it's so important, I think, for Wires to encourage communication and collaboration and mentorship
yeah,
rather than what they seem to have been doing for a while is isolating people and trying to shut down communication, and can't quite figure out why that is because
I think it's a two-way street too. There's a lot of volunteers that just don't communicate. They don't put their hand up and say, I've just picked up this pinky or something, because they're not quite sure, they're not confident that, if they do the wrong thing, is there going to be repercussions? So
mm,
one of the things that comes with the policing, I mean, everyone's scared of the RSPCA because it's a policing thing rather than uh, care for the animals.
animal welfare, yeah.
Everyone sees RSPCA as the animal police. um, there's a lot of people going underground. We've had a case yesterday where a lady has raised a joey, and it's now way too big for her lounge room, sitting in, on the dog bed. But she's kept that secret because she wasn't quite sure, is she going to get in trouble if she cares for this room?
Mm.
And we did have a report to the RSPCA, and they said they could attend in 2 days' time, whereas that room needed to be moved right there and then, put into proper care. So I think there's the delay in a lot of it that we just can't. You can't leave a kangaroo suffering. You can't leave
Mm.
a combat at the side of the road. And sometimes when mum gets hit, there's a joey standing next to mum at the side of a road at 100 k's an hour.
Mm.
It's going to be the second fatality or cause an accident, and we race out there all hours to try and pick up the joey. And we've got lots of members that can do that. They might head out with a net and a blanket and grab the joey, but then there's the mum laying there injured for hours and hours waiting for the few people that can deal with mum.
Well, it's heartbreaking and very unnecessary, really,
Yeah,
because
so
it's not for lack of willing or people willing to take on that role.
well, look, we've got a
Mm.
lot of volunteer, and I mean, in every branch, in every volunteer organisation, you've got the core people that are very active, and they get overwhelmed, and you've got a lot of members who do very little. With they've all got their own reasons, but I think we sort of need to all work together, because
Mm.
a lot of the time, if we're flat out, it's really helpful if someone else goes out and sees if it's still alive or locates it, because we get terrible directions. So we
Mm.
spend hours going up and down, they'll say 100 metres from some intersection, and we've found it 2 kilometres away, because people aren't very good at their directions. So it also helps with other members if they just go out and find it,
Mm.
put a piece of tape on a pole or something like that.
Mm.
But I think the big issue that I'm finding the stress is that we want to go away. I want to spend time with the grandkids. But if I leave the area, I just feel terrible that, a call comes up and it's sitting there for hours. And it's the stress. There's a lot of people who care, and that's why we're all volunteers. We all care. And those people that are very caring also get very, very stressed when they can't do anything. They're feeling of helplessness. So we've really got to find a solution to that side of things.
That leads me to, the mental health issue, which is huge, and many members talk about the absence of support from head office, the availability of mental health services, Wild Talk in particular, which specialises in counselling services for anyone working in the wildlife volunteer sector.
Yeah.
Um,
There is Black
but
Dog. I mean, Wales has got
yeah,
an association with Black Dog. I haven't contacted them, but I did contact Francis from Wildlife when I had a particularly traumatic euthanasia.
I
So,
think the great thing about Frances and Wild Talk is that that's what all of her team are trained in.
mm,
Trauma for people working in, or trauma counselling for people working in the wildlife volunteer space. Whereas I've no doubt that Black Dog and Beyond Blue and other
yeah,
resources, um, like they're great in their own right, but they're not specific to this sector. So
yeah,
supporting something like
yeah,
Wild Talk
yeah.
would be invaluable and
I
has been for
Yeah, I just
years.
think they're probably more appropriate, but I can't comment because I've never tried Black Dog.
Yeah.
It's there, it's available to us 24/7.
Yes.
There is things available,
Mm.
but whether we've got that confidence to make that call too, um, you know, that's a two-way street. So people need to recognise the trauma they're going through,
Mm.
need to reach out, which is, one thing that when people go through this sort of thing, they tend to shut down. They don't tend to.
Mm.
So, as I said, if I had a phone call when I was right in the middle of all that trauma from someone from Wire's, volunteer support, I probably would have opened up to them and, explained it all. But I stewed and then ended up contacting Francis. So, I think it's a two-way street. You both need to act on it, but I don't know. I just don't know whether they're that approachable. Or you send an email and you wait 2 or 3 days for an answer or longer. Sometimes I've rung and they're going to get back to me. I'm standing at the side of the road or trying to do a rescue, and you don't hear back that day.
Well, on many occasions, people have not heard back at all. And I would have thought that that would be a fundamental um, service or part of the organisation that they check in on members, particularly
And then,
those working in the euthanasia space, because it is such a traumatic role to take on.
yeah, it's people get burnt out. So we lose
Mm.
members, we lose very, very experienced carers because they do get burnt out. So
Mm.
there needs to be campaigns for more members, but then once you've got those members and they've got the skills, we really need to support them.
Mm.
And I just feel that there's this disconnect between the people on the ground and the people in management.
Very
The
much so.
the rescue centre, the rescue call centre, I've had great dealings with them. They really care. They're doing their utmost, ringing around and that sort of thing. So it's very frustrating for them too.
Mm.
But yeah, it's just a constant workload, I suppose. It's
Yes.
you become a workforce rather than volunteers who are doing it because they love wildlife. So it becomes a job. And
A
that's,
voluntary job.
yeah.
The demands are huge. They really are, aren't they?
And I mean, we've
Mm.
been very lucky as far as our vet bills are covered, our milk bills are covered. We could not function without that funding. So,
Mm.
and a lot of members are staying with Wires because they can't afford to do the care if they didn't get those milk and those vet bills paid.
Hmm.
And as I said, a lot of them are elderly or on pensions, that sort of thing, because they've got the time to volunteer. But they certainly wouldn't be able to afford to care for animals if they didn't have that funding from.
Mm.
So that's a positive. Um,
Unfortunately, that's not across the board, though. That's what we're hearing. So, yes, it is great that they cover some things, but it seems to depend who you are and where you are.
we're
Um,
realistic with our vet bills. I mean, because I'm macropod coordinator, I quite often will make the call for a euthanasia. We're not going to fix a broken bone. We're not going to treat an animal that's compromised. Um, I just call for a euthanasia for that one, and let's save the ones that are perfectly healthy.
mm,
So, a lot of people are against that, would like to try and save everything. And, send them to specialist vets and things. But in reality, unless it's an endangered species, if it's compromised, we euthanize. And that's the practicality of sheer numbers and lack of, specialist vets and specialist carers.
Mm.
We do make that call, and often I lose sleep over it, but it's the best call if an animal is suffering. You don't put it through anything else. You save the ones that you can. And that's, once again, it doesn't do well with your mental health, because you think,
No.
this, you'd have a carer saying, oh, please, can we get this one fixed? I'll take it to Dubbo Zoo. But it's really hard, because that's all expense and time. And, if a carer spends 24/7 on one animal, they're not able to care for the other 4 that you want to give them. It does make it, there's a lot of pressure and stress in sort of coordinating all of that. And I mean, the other thing too is that we do have the same people in the executive all the time. So I don't know how we get around that. That's another pressure, because you think, if I quit this job, there's no one else that's going to do it. So it just puts more pressure on the other active people. One of the things that I would love Wires to do is take over treasurer, because if they're paying the bills, if they've got to approve things, why not push it all to someone who's paid, instead of a volunteer that's trying to fit it in with everything else they do?
But it's interesting with the fundraising of branches. We've been hearing that it's the members who are out there doing the Bunnings barbecues and whatnot to raise the money, but head office still has the final say about how that funding is spent, even though the branch members have raised that money.
Yeah, that was one of the things with our thermal scope, that we raised the money. We got a grant from Andrew G, and we had an anonymous donation of another $1,000 to pay for a scope, and we were knocked back. We weren't approved to buy that.
Wow.
So, and I think you're not,
despite the vast need. That's crazy.
So that really hurt, that one, because we did, specifically do fundraising for the thermal scope. So it ended up being donated anyway. But that was a $2,500 donation from someone who, just saw the need. Although we were fundraising, we couldn't get it approved through our Wires funding. I can't see the sense in that when we've raised money anyway. Why would you not approve it when it's money that we've raised for that particular item?
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's mad.
So there's a few things like that, and as I said, I think they just don't understand what's happening on the ground. They don't understand the distance. They don't understand that just the sheer, not trauma, well, it is the trauma, but the sheer pressure of all this. When you're trying to find a kangaroo or an injured animal in long grass in the dark, that's a terrible stress. And you've got cars whizzing past you at 100 k's an hour. I don't think they really appreciate just what we go through.
And I think that's not for the lack of members trying either, because there's been many, many attempts of members to contact head office to let them know what's going on, to ask them to be involved in discussions, to attend meetings and try and, open the channels of communication so that head office can understand what it's like on a day-to-day basis for carers. Yeah. But members are not feeling heard, which is a really big issue.
Yeah, I think that needs to change. We need to be heard. I think they really need to understand. Spend a day in our shoes, a day in our there is that lack of understanding of just what we're going through. And I think that needs to change. I don't want to get into the politics. I've purposely stayed right out of the politics. I really want to take care of the animals, but being chairperson of our branch, I can see a lot of our members just don't feel that support. They feel that disconnect. They are worried about the policing of RSPCA and wildlife. So those are genuine concerns, and I think we can fix those things. Wires has got the credibility. Everybody knows that if you've got an injured animal at the side of the road, there's that phone number, you ring the Wires office, someone will do something about it. But that someone needs to be supported. And I think
absolutely
we really need to make some changes to, come out of the ivory tower and get at the side of the road when it's raining and foggy.
And I think
That's
that's why it's so important with these SGMs coming up that people do understand the full situation and educate themselves about the implications of which way that they vote in order to bring about those changes that need to happen and to open the channels of communication and really reform it and bring it back to its original setup, for members, run by members, where members feel like they're taking on this journey of change and they're fully involved in it.
Yeah, look, I think there's room for improvement, but it is a good system. So, I would love for all the bickering to be over and someone to get down to the grassroots of actually managing a very large organisation with a very loyal staff or volunteer membership. As I said, you take care of your people and then they'll make you look good.
Absolutely. And that starts at the top. There needs to be a really strong, positive leadership who are happy to take feedback and hold discussions and maybe, even the head office staff go out there and actually spend time with the carers and the rescuers and see what they do and feel their experience
Yeah,
so that they have a deeper understanding of what they're managing at the top.
yeah. I've got to understand what's happening out there, and that's I maybe they do, but I don't. I don't get that. I don't feel that there is that understanding of what's going on. I had a swamp wallaby that was stuck in a backyard in suburbia, and we were told to throw it over the fence to put it along the creek.
Mm.
On the other side of that creek was the major highway. So, there's no way you're going to be able to catch an adult swamp wallaby. Like,
No,
they just dart over your
they're
head.
so fast.
So that was a lack of understanding of what that animal's capable of. It wasn't hurt. It was just stuck in the wrong place. And that was absolutely ridiculous comment to just, get it over the fence and it'll be okay. Like, it's just, that's a lack of understanding of what the situation was. So there's those sorts of things that there is that lack of understanding of what's actually real life. And I think that's where they need to improve.
Yeah, so if the system does change because of the influence of the members and the way that they vote to change the upper management, there's real hope that it can,
Oh,
that
look, it's a
can,
great system. I think
yeah.
this is fantastic. It's got a heritage, it's got the systems, it's already got a volunteer base, and when those bushfires happen, that's where people are going to donate their money. And it's actually a system that could work really well. I just think that there's room for improvement, and that improvement is about communication and support for their members and a better appreciation of what's happening on the ground. So you don't make stupid comments like you can share a thermal scope, or you can travel 2 hours at night to go and euthanize a kangaroo, or you can throw a swamp wallaby over a back fence. Like those lack of reality checks is where we really need some support and some fixing. Yeah.
Definitely. Is there anything else that you can think of that you might want to raise?
Not really. Like they're my main gripes. I love the Wires membership. I love the friends I've made, the beautiful, caring people that we've got. We're actually a really good branch. We all work together. We've got a communication channel between us. So, like, I love that system. I just, and as I said, we've got a caravan that's sitting in the garage that I want to go away.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, I think, oh, gee, how's all my lovely friends going to manage when we're out of the system? We're two shooters that are not here. There's two people that aren't doing, those large. We do a lot of the large mammal rescues, so big kangaroos stuck in fences or in a backyard where they shouldn't be. There leaves a void if we go, and that's a real pressure, and it's terrible. Like, I go away and I don't relax because I don't turn X matters off, or I'm getting phone calls and messages, And there's just that, that helpless feeling that I'm not there.
Yeah, and I think that the recruitment and retention of members could be well improved by the shift in culture,
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
new people are hearing about what's going
yeah.
on and are probably more hesitant than they would have been to join.
And
Um,
retention is really important because you've already got trained, experienced people, carers.
yeah, and we're losing a lot of experience, which
We're
is
losing that experience.
terrible.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of new members that are taking on Joeys and taking on care, but they take a lot of mentoring, and they've got to do all the courses and get up to speed. Whereas you've got very experienced carers who are no longer involved because they've got issues with wires, or they're overwhelmed, or
Well,
so
they've been targeted already. Let's be
yeah.
honest.
So
Yeah.
let's retain all that fantastic experience.
Mm,
Let's support the carers you've got, because those experienced carers are the ones that bring in new members too.
mm.
Talking to friends and, sitting at a vet practice with a Joey in a little bag and talking to the person next to them that's also an animal lover, and talking them into being a WISE volunteer. So
Mm.
they're your best advocates for new members, is your happy members that are out there. And I think that's what you've got to do. You've got to take care of the happy members out there, and they'll bring in your new workforce.
Absolutely. WISE have to do a lot better with supporting the current membership in order to recruit and retain more, really,
Yeah,
and move forward in a positive direction.
yeah. Look, there's lots of positive that can happen. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. We just got to get through this dark tunnel at the moment and get
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
And shut off the noise and just get on with it. And
Yeah, and a lot of
yeah.
members have said that to me, that they're not even looking at the votes or any of this information. They've shut out from that. They just want to take care of animals, because
Yeah, which
that's
is what they should be doing, not wasting all of this energy on this,
that's what we signed up for.
stuff. Mm.
Help the animals. That's what we signed up for.
Get back to that.
Yeah, and it's very confusing because there's a lot of information coming out. There's a lot of emails. There's a lot of stuff on social media, and people have just switched off.
Mm.
They've had enough.
And rightly so.
So let's try and sort it out and get it finished, and then we can go back to doing what we like to do, and hopefully we have some cute and fluffy. I've got lots of them at the
Absolutely.
moment. I've got 7 little babies that have
Oh,
in their pouches, so it's
gorgeous.
and it's actually good for the mental health and the soul, sitting there, but bottle feeding a tiny little soul that you've saved.
Definitely when they look into your eyes,
Yeah.
that connection.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what you need. I mean, John, my husband, has been a shooter from day dot, and if you look at his call sheets, it's euthanized by firearm. And he comes home from those and has a cuddle with one of the Joeys, and that's his therapy each time. So
Mm.
he's had a bad day, he'll come. We've got a lot of release ones that come back. And sitting up in the paddock, he'll go and sit in the paddock, and he'll be there for an hour just sitting in amongst the wild
Oh,
birds. That's his therapy.
gorgeous.
So you've got to have a balance somewhere. You've got to have a
Mm.
balance. Yeah. No, look, it's good to talk to you.
The greatest admiration for what you do and everybody, but particularly for your role, because I can see how hard and how relentless that is. And also for your bravery in being part of this series, because we know that this comes with risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a super important conversation to have, just so that hopefully some of this filters through to people who are not sure about what's going on or which way they should vote
Yeah.
in order
No,
to change.
I'm not intending to leave Wires. I love the ethos of Wires, what it's meant to be.
Yes,
I just want some improvements.
yes, awesome. Don't we all?
No, look, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the
Oh, thank you so much, Shirley. Fingers crossed.
All right. I'll go back out to the pen and pick up poop.
Beautiful,
That's
beautiful.
my daily job. It's a nice day. I'll go out there and spend a few hours.
Yeah, I find that therapeutic actually.
Yeah,
Just going up and down and up and down
yeah,
and
yeah. I have my
yeah.
method, my system.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The grid system.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay.